Hey guys, this is Heroic Flamingo, and welcome to my Guild Wars 2 2020 guide to classes and elite specializations. In this video, I'm going to be giving a basic overview of all 9 of the base classes, as well as all 18 of the elite specializations or subclasses. I'll be looking at what armor each class uses, as well as what weapons they have at their disposal, what skills make them unique, as well as providing a combat demonstration for all of the classes and the elite specializations. So without further ado, let's get started. The warrior is one of Guild Wars 2's soldier professions and therefore uses heavy armor. This makes them tougher to kill, as well as making them perfect for getting up close and personal using melee weapons. They boast more weapons than any other class. In the two-hand, they're able to use the greatsword, the hammer, the longbow and the rifle. In the main hand, they can use the axe, the mace and the sword. In the offhand, they can use the axe, the mace, the shield, the sword and the warhorn, and underwater they can use the harpoon gun and the spear. The warrior is a class that you're probably already familiar with from any other MMO or RPG. This, combined with the relatively straightforward mechanics, make it one of the most popular classes with new players. They have plenty of skill types to choose from, including banners, which are skills that produce a banner at a target location that pulse stat increasing buffs depending on which banner was placed. They can use burst skills, so as the warrior fights they build up adrenaline, which is the bar just above their weapon skills, and burst skills spend this adrenaline to cast powerful skills based on the weapon the warrior is wielding. They can use physical skills, and these skills focus on inflicting crowd control on the enemy. They can use shout skills, which are support skills that provide positive effects to nearby allies or negative effects to enemies. Or they can use signets, which provide a passive bonus and can be activated to lose the passive bonus but produce a more powerful effect. And they can also use stance skills. Stance skills are skills that provide positive effects that linger for a duration. A core warrior has 5 specializations to choose from, and you can have 3 active at any one time. These are strength, which focuses on dodging, physical skills and brute force and enhances the greatsword, the hammer and physical skills. There's also arms, which focuses on critical hits and heavy use of the bleeding condition. This enhances sword and signet skills, as well as dual wielding. The defense specialization focuses on damage mitigation, stability and crowd control, and enhances the shield, the mace and the stance skills. Tactics specialization specializes in supporting allies via burst and shout abilities, and it enhances the warhorn and shout skills. The final specialization is discipline. This focuses on improving adrenaline gain and weapon swapping, and enhances the axe, the longbow, the rifle, the harpoon gun, banners and burst skills. The first elite specialization for the warrior, introduced in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Berserker. The Berserker focuses on adrenaline and adds a new Berserk mode that gives access to primal bursts. It also allows the warrior to use an offhand torch weapon, so this adds a couple of extra weapon skills to your arsenal as well. It adds a whole new type of skills called rage skills. These are utility skills that deal direct damage and control and increase the duration of the Berserker's profession mechanic, Berserk mode. So basically everything about the Berserker is designed to extend your Berserker mode as long as possible and to deal damage to everyone around you. The second elite specialization for the warrior, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Spellbreaker. The Spellbreaker focuses on meditation skills and enables the full counter skill. It also allows the warrior to wield a dagger in either hand, which means you can get 5 new weapon skills from the daggers, mix and match them with any other main hand or offhand weapon to gain loads of extra possibilities for your build. The Spellbreaker also adds meditations as a new type of skill. These meditations focus on crowd control, supporting the Spellbreaker and removing boons from enemies. The Guardian is another one of Guild Wars 2's soldier professions, and therefore uses heavy armour. From a weapon standpoint, in a two-hand they're able to use the greatsword, the hammer and the staff. In the main hand they can use the mace, scepter and the sword. In the offhand, the focus, shield and torch, and underwater, the spear and the trident. The Guardian is often compared to the Paladin or other holy warriors from other MMOs, and is widely considered to be one of the easier classes to play in Guild Wars 2 due to the fact that it's quite powerful and that the basic mechanics are quite easy to grasp. So the unique profession mechanic for the Guardian are virtues. So you have 3 virtues that sit above your weapon skills, and they all have a passive effect, and then when you click on them and they activate and have a more powerful effect, a bit like a signet. There's quite a few different types of skills that the Guardian can use. These are Consecration, which are skills that focus on providing condition removal, projectile defense and control for the Guardian and its allies. Meditation skills, which are skills that heal or cleanse conditions and provide mobility. Shout skills that provide positive effects to nearby allies. Signet skills, which provide a passive bonus and can be activated to lose the passive bonus but produce a more powerful effect. And spirit weapon skills, which are ghostly weapons which attack enemies or give benefit to allies. There are also 5 core specializations within the Guardian, and you can use 3 at any one time. These are Zeal, which focuses on increasing damage and applying vulnerability and enhances greatsword, scepter and spirit weapon skills. There's Radiance, which focuses on burning, critical hits and retaliation, and enhances sword, torch and signet skills. And Valor, which focuses on blocking and toughness and enhances focus, shield and meditation skills. Honor, which focuses on dodging, healing and protection and enhances mace, staff and symbol and shout skills. And finally Virtues, which focus on virtues and retaliation and enhances hammer, consecration and virtue skills. The first elite specialization for the Guardian, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Dragonhunter. The Dragonhunter focuses on trap skills and grants upgraded versions of your virtues. Also allows you to use the longbow, which gives you a whole set of weapon skills that you can integrate into your build. So it unlocks a whole unique set of skills called traps. So traps are placed on the ground and they activate when a target walks over them. The second elite specialization for the Guardian, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Firebrand. This converts your virtues into offensive and defensive totems. When you activate one of these totems, it replaces all of your weapon skills, meaning that there's a whole bunch more skills that you can use in this build. Also, it allows the Guardian to equip an axe in the main hand, so you've got a few more extra weapon skills to play with as well. The other thing it does is add a unique set of skills called mantras. So mantras are skills that must be prepared before use. So on their first use, the Firebrand channels and prepares the mantra. After charging them, the skill is replaced by 2 charges of the mantra, which can be activated instantly, even in the middle of another action. The Revenant is the final soldier profession in Guild Wars 2, and therefore also uses heavy armour. The Revenant was released with the Heart of Thorns expansion, so if you just got the base game, you might not actually have the Revenant. So the Revenant is able to use quite a few different weapons. So in the main hand, it can use a mace and a sword. In the offhand, it can use an axe and a sword. And two-handed, it can use a hammer and a staff. And underwater, a spear and a trident. The Revenant is unlike any other class I've used in any other MMO, so it's pretty unique. It works in a completely different way to all the other classes, and because of that, it's more of a difficult, so it's more of an intermediate class, so maybe not for beginners. So instead of having a pool of utility skills to choose from, you actually have 4 stances to choose from, and those stances only have one set of skills that you can use. So there's the legendary assassin stance, the legendary centaur stance, the legendary demon stance, and a legendary dwarf stance. So if you have a look at all of those, you'll notice all the skills are different and they're good in certain ways. You can have 2 active ones at a time that you switch between in combat. Then out of combat you can change them whenever you want. So there are 5 core specializations for the Revenant, and you can use 3 at any one time. So the Corruption one, which is associated with the legendary demon stance, focuses on applying condition damage and resisting condition damage, and benefits maces. Retribution is associated with the legendary dwarf stance and focuses on reducing and returning incoming damage and endurance recovery, and this benefits dodging. The Salvation specialization is associated with the legendary centaur stance and focuses on healing and support and benefits use of the staff. The Invocation specialization focuses on critical strike chance and invoking legends. And finally, the Devastation specialization associated with the legendary assassin stance and focuses on improving damage to enemies and stealing health, and benefits dual wielding. The first elite specialization for the Revenant, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Herald. So the Herald unlocks a new stance called the Legendary Dragon stance, which invokes the power of the legendary dragon glint. So this gives you a whole new set of skills to play with. It also allows you to use the shield as an offhand, which means that you've got some extra weapon skills to play with as well. The second elite specialization for the Revenant, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Renegade. The Renegade unlocks the legendary Renegade stance, which allows you to invoke the power of the legendary Char Renegade Kala Scorch Razor. It also replaces your F2 ability Ancient Echo with 3 individual Citadel Order skills, so give them a look as well. Also allows you to use the short bow, which adds a whole new set of weapon skills for you to use to integrate into your build. The Ranger is one of Guild Wars 2's adventurer professions, and therefore uses medium armour. This means they're suited to a mixture of ranged and melee combat. So in terms of weapons, in two-hand they're able to use the great sword, the longbow and the short bow. In the main hand they can use the axe and the sword. In the offhand they can use the axe, the dagger, the torch and the warhorn, and underwater they can use the harpoon gun and the spear. The Ranger is a class that you're probably familiar with from other MMOs, and is referred to as one of the easier classes to play, as the mechanics are pretty easy to grasp. The main unique mechanic for the Ranger is the fact that you can have a pet. What's cool about pets in Guild Wars 2 as opposed to other MMOs is that you're actually able to have 2 active pets at any one time. You can swap between them in combat as the situation changes, just like a weapon set. You can also control your pets using the F keys, and they all have unique skills for that specific type of pet. So the Ranger uses quite a few different types of skills. These are the command skills. These are skills that give orders to the Ranger's pet or provide boons to both the Ranger and their pet. Signet skills, which are skills that provide a passive bonus and can be activated to lose the passive bonus and produce a more powerful effect. Survival skills, which are defensive skills that turn the tide in battle. Spirit skills, which summon spirits that grant positive effects to nearby allies. And trap skills, which can be placed on the ground and activated when a target walks over them. The Ranger has 5 core specializations, and you can have 3 active at any one time. These are Marksmanship, which focuses on long range damage and opening strikes and enhances the longbow, harpoon gun and signet skills. Skirmishing, which focuses on critical hits, bleeds and weapon swapping and enhances sword, short bow and trap skills. The Wilderness Survival specialization, which focuses on defensive combat maneuvers and condition removal and enhances torch, dagger and survival skills. and there's also Nature Magic, which focuses on healing and boons and enhances the Warhorn and Spirit skills. And finally, the Beast Mastery specialization. This focuses on improving your pet's attributes and abilities and pet swapping. Enhances the Greatsword, Axe and Command skills. The first elite specialisation for the Ranger, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Druid. The Druid focuses on glyph skills and adds a new Astral Force mechanic that allows you to become a celestial avatar. So as you kill enemies, you fill up your bar, and when you press F5, you'll become a celestial avatar and get a whole new set of skills. The Druid also allows you to use the staff, which gives you a whole new set of weapon skills to use. The new type of skills you get to use are glyphs. So glyphs are double-faced skills focused on support that interact with the Druid's profession mechanic of Celestial Avatar. The second elite specialisation for the Ranger, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Soulbeast. Soulbeast is really cool as it allows you to merge with your pets through beast mode. So if you press F5, you and your pet will become one, and you'll get some new skills for your F-bar that you can use, making you more powerful. Soulbeast also allows you to wield a dagger in the main hand, which means that you've got a few new weapon skills to play with. So the new type of skills you can use with this elite specialisation is stance skills. So stance skills grant the Soulbeast positive effects over a few seconds, inspired by the strengths of the depicted animals. The Thief is another one of Guild Wars 2's adventurer professions, and therefore uses medium armour. They're quite limited in the weapons department, so though in the two-hand they're only able to use the short bow. In the main hand they can use a dagger, a pistol or a sword. In the offhand, a dagger or a pistol, and underwater they can use a harpoon gun and a spear. The Thief is often likened to rogues and assassins from other games, as it specialises in stealth and deception to bring down its enemies. It's often referred to as one of the hardest professions to play in Guild Wars 2 because of the complexity of the mechanics. So it works slightly differently to most of the other professions in Guild Wars 2. So instead of working off cooldowns, the skills actually use a finite resource called initiative, which as you use your skills is depleted and comes back over time. So this means that although you can go in and you can use multiple skills over and over again, you'll soon find that you've run out of initiative and therefore you have to wait for it to come back, and then you can end up getting killed. This is why it's not really recommended for new players. So the different types of skills you can use as the Thief are deception skills, which focus on turning the tide through stealth, teleports, blinds and summoning allied thieves. Dual wield skills, which combine both weapons to create a dual wield attack which take place of their third weapon skill. Preparation skills, which function similar to traps but are manually activated by the Thief. Signet skills, which provide a passive bonus and then produce a more powerful effect when you activate them. Stealth attacks, which are special skills that replace the first weapon skill of the Thief's skill bar while in stealth. Trick skills, which focus on making the Thief even more slippery and hard to catch. And finally, venom skills, which apply a creature's venom to the Thief and nearby allies' weapons to inflict conditions on the next attack. So there are 5 core specializations for the Thief, and you can use 3 at any one time. These are Deadly Arts, which focus on the use of poison and exploiting enemies with low health and enhance your dagger skills. Critical Strikes, which focus on critical hits and critical damage and enhance pistol, harpoon gun and signet skills. Shadow Arts, which focus on stealth and blinding enemies and enhance venom and deception skills. Acrobatics, which focuses on dodging, mobility and healing and enhances sword and spear skills. And finally, Trickery, which focuses on stealing and managing initiative and enhances trick and steal skills. The first elite specialisation for the Thief, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Daredevil. So the Daredevil focuses on physical skills and dodging. So you'll notice that the endurance bar in this character is actually larger than usual. So you can actually dodge more often than on your normal character. So it's quite a big part of the mechanics. Also, you're able to use a staff, which gives a whole new take on that because it's used as a physical weapon rather than a magical one. So that's a pretty cool feature as well. So in terms of the skills, it adds a new type of skill to the thief, and that's physical skills. And physical skills focus on damage and crowd control. The second elite specialisation for the thief is the Deadeye. The Deadeye turns your thief into a marksman, allowing you to use rifles, which gives you a whole new set of ranged weapon skills that you can use, and also allows you to use cantrip skills. Cantrip skills are skills that interact with the Deadeye's profession mechanic, which is now Deadeye's mark, to crowd control enemies and provide mobility and stealth to the Deadeye. The Engineer is the final adventurer class in Guild Wars 2, and therefore uses medium armour. They're quite limited in the weapons that they can use, so on the two-hand they can only use a rifle, in the main hand they can only use a pistol, in the off-hand they can use a pistol or a shield, and underwater they can only use a harpoon gun. They are also one of only two classes that aren't able to use weapon swap while in combat, so you'll only have one set of weapon skills available to you while in combat. The Engineer is a pretty unique class, and I've not really seen anything like it outside of Guild Wars 2. It's also known as one of the more intermediate classes, so there are some mechanics you're going to have to learn, so maybe not the best for beginners, but you certainly could start with this class. So the unique profession mechanic for the Engineer is the tool belt. So the tool belt is located just above your weapon skills, your F1 to F5 buttons. So these are defined by whatever your 6 to 0 skills are on your bar. So your utility, healing and elite skills will define what skills you have on your tool belt, and then just some extra things you can use in combat to extra gadgets to make you more powerful. So the skill types you can use as an Engineer are elixir skills, which are concoctions that provide boons to the Engineer and to their allies via their tool belt skills. Engineering kits, so you can wield engineering kits to replace their currently equipped weapons and their skills. So for example, a flamethrower will replace all of your 5 skills for your weapon skills, so this is why you don't have your weapon swap. There are gadgets, which are a mixed group of various devices focused on providing utility, like rocket boots or utility goggles, or crowd control, like personal battering ram. There are also turrets, which are immobile allied devices deployed to help defend and control an area. So each turret skill creates one turret, and you can always press that button again to self-destruct the turret to do extra damage to potentially finish off an enemy. So there are 5 core specializations to the Engineer. As always, you can use 3 at any one time. These are explosives, which are emphasis on damage increase, dodging, vulnerability and explosions, including bombs, grenades and mines, and they enhance the bomb kit and the grenade kit. Firearms, which is the emphasis on critical hits and conditions, especially bleeding and burning, and they enhance the pistol, the rifle, the harpoon gun and the flamethrower skills. The Invention specialization has its emphasis on healing, defense and cleansing conditions, and enhances the shield and turret skills. Alchemy has its emphasis on gaining boons and support, and enhances the elixir and medkit skills. And finally, the Tool specialization is based on the tool belt skills and endurance, and enhances your gadget and your toolkit skills. The first elite specialization for the Engineer, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Scrapper. So the Scrapper allows you to use gyros to create mobile whirls around them for a variety of effects. Also, it allows you to wield a hammer, so a two-handed hammer which will replace all 5 of your weapon skills, which gives a very different feel to the Engineer. So in regards to the well skills, which are unique to this, is that gyros are like little drones that fly around you. So they're wells, but they're mobile, so they move around and create both positive and negative effects to everyone around you. The second elite specialisation for the engineer, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Holosmith. The Holosmith grants you access to the Photon Forge mechanic, which replaces your F5 skill. So that, when activated, that grants you a whole new set of weapon skills which generate heat over time. So you want to turn that off before your heat goes to full, otherwise you'll take some damage. Also allows you to equip the sword in the main hand, giving you quite a few extra new weapon skills to play with there. So the new type of skill that you're able to use with this elite specialisation is Exceed skills. So these are powerful holographic weapons and tools created using solidified sunlight or hard light that benefit from the amount of accumulated heat in the Photon Forge. So that links in there, so you want to obviously build up heat in the Photon Forge but not too much. The Necromancer is the first scholar profession in Guild Wars 2 and therefore wears light armour, meaning they're more acclimatised to ranged combat. The weapons they can use are, in the two-hand they can just use a staff, in the main hand they can use an axe, dagger or sceptre, and in the offhand they can use a dagger, focus or warhorn, and in underwater they can use a spear or a trident. The Necromancer is quite similar to the Warlock in other games, as it uses blood magic and death magic to destroy its foes. It's often referred to as one of the easier professions to play in Guild Wars 2, as the basic mechanics are quite easy to grasp. So the main unique profession mechanic on the Necromancer is the Life Force bar and the Death Shroud. So the Life Force bar is located just above your weapon bar, and as you kill enemies, that Life Force bar fills up. You can then press F1 to use your Death Shroud, which will give you a whole new set of weapon skills, and it will deplete your life force over time while you're using that instead of your health, so you're effectively invincible for that small amount of time. And you can go in and out of Death Shroud as you see fit, to make it quite an effective skill to use and quite powerful. So the different types of skills that you can use as the Necromancer are corruption skills, which apply conditions to the Necromancer and to the target. Mark skills, which are ones you can place on the ground, which explode when an enemy walks over them to produce a variety of effects for both allies and for foes. Minion skills, which are my favourite, which allows the Necromancer to summon undead minions to do your bidding and attack the foes. And each minion has its own sequence skill, which means once you've summoned it, you can press that button again, and that particular minion will have another effect. Like, for example, it might explode and damage the enemy, or it might do a powerful attack or something like that. There's also Signet skills, which provide a passive bonus and then a more powerful effect once activated. Spectral skills, which use otherworldly spectral energy that further improves the Necromancer's resilience, effectively granting new life force. And they're also Well skills, that are long-lasting attacks on the ground to inflict negative effect on enemies. So there are 5 core specialisations for the Necromancer, and you can have 3 active at any one time. First one is Spite, which focuses on improving damage and vulnerability on enemies and enhances focus, axe and signet skills. Curses, which focuses on critical hits and applying conditions to enemies and enhances the scepter and corruption skills. Death magic, which focuses on minions and improved effectiveness while in shroud, enhances your minion attributes and abilities. Blood magic, which focuses on healing, stealing life and reviving allies, and enhances dagger, warhorn and well skills. And finally Soul Reaping, which focuses on the Death Shroud, staves and life force, and enhances your shroud abilities. The first elite specialisation for the Necromancer, released in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Reaper. The Reaper focuses on shout skills and enables the melee orientated Reaper's Shroud, so it effectively replaces your Death Shroud with a Reaper's Shroud, which basically turns you into the Grim Reaper. So you go around with a massive scythe and you can do lots of really high powered melee abilities, so it's really good. Also, it allows the Necromancer to wield a greatsword, which is a lot of fun to use, gives you a whole new set of weapon skills to integrate into your build. Also, it allows you to have a whole new type of skills, which are shout skills. And shout skills are skills that damage enemies around the Reaper, becoming more powerful the more enemies they hit. The second elite specialisation for the Necromancer, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Scourge. So the Scourge replaces your Death Shroud with what are called Sand Shades. So this is a pretty new concept. So instead of using your Death Shroud, you can put Sand Shades down, so you can do quite a few of them at a time, and they have effects on all of the enemies around them. So it's quite a powerful thing, but very different from Death Shroud, so it's something that is quite interesting. Also, it allows you to use an offhand torch, so you've got a few extra weapons there. It also gives you access to punishment abilities. So these are skills that focus on providing boons to allies and conditions to enemies while corrupting boons on enemies. The Elementalist is one of the 3 scholar professions in Guild Wars 2, and therefore uses light armour. They're quite restricted with what weapons they can use, so actually they're only able to use staff in the 2-hand, in the main hand they can only use a dagger and a scepter, and in the offhand a dagger or a focus, and in underwater they can only use a trident. They're one of only 2 classes that aren't actually able to swap weapons in combat, so you're only able to have one set of weapon skills available at any one time. The Elementalist is often compared to mages and wizards in other games, so it's just your general spellcaster, but it focuses quite heavily on the elements in Guild Wars 2. It's commonly known as one of the most difficult professions to play as, because it's got a lot of elements, a lot of different skills to learn, so it might not be something that you want to do for your first one, but I'll leave that up to you. So the main unique profession mechanic on the Elementalist is the ability to swap between the 4 attunements. These are fire, water, air and earth. Fire attunement relies on heavy damage and burning abilities. The water attunement is about support and healing abilities. The air attunement is about control abilities, and the earth attunement is about damage over time and defensive abilities. You can swap between these 4 attunements while in combat, so you effectively have 4 different weapon bars to use at any one time, which is obviously why you can't actually weapon swap in combat, because then you'd have 8 and it'd be an absolute nightmare. So the different skill types you can use as the Elementalist are Arcane, which are spells that use non-elemental magical energy, which cast instantly, often dealing critical damage. There are Aura skills, which are Elementalist skills, temporary defensive effects around allies which cause harm to attacking enemies. There are cantrip skills, which are defensive charms which activate instantly. Conjure skills, which conjure ephemeral, potent weapons for them, and 1 ally to use in combat. Glyph skills that produce different positive or negative effects that depend on the current attunement of the Elementalist. And Signet skills, which provide a passive bonus, can be activated to produce a more powerful effect. So there are 5 core specializations, as always, at the Elementalist, and you can use 3 at any one time. So these are Fire, which focuses on fire magic, increased damage and burning, and enhances fire weapon skills and conjured weapon skills. It's the Air specialization, which focuses on air magic, movement speed and critical hits and critical damage, and enhances air weapon skills and glyph skills. There's the Earth specialization, which focuses on earth magic, defense and bleeding, and enhances earth weapon skills and signet skills. There's the Water specialization, which focuses on water magic, healing, and exploiting vulnerability on foes, and enhances water weapon skills and cantrip skills. And finally, the Arcane specialization, which focuses on critical hits, boons, and the switching of attunements, enhances attunement and arcane skills. The first elite specialization for the Elementalist, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Tempest. So the Tempest focuses on shout skills and adds a new overload mechanic to their attunements. So if you're in an attunement, say you're in fire attunement, so F1, you press F1 again, you'll overload that attunement and do a powerful spell, and you can do that for all 4 of the different attunements. Tempest also allows you to use a Warhorn in your offhand, giving you a couple of extra weapon skills to fit into your build as well. The other thing that you do is you unlock a new skill type, which is Shouts. So Shouts are skills that take effect in an area around the Tempest, dealing damage while also giving an aura to the Tempest and nearby allies. The second elite specialisation for the Elementalist, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Weaver. So the Weaver focuses on stance skills and adds a new dual attack mechanic that creates a unique third weapon skill based on the 2 attuned elements. So basically, as you switch between your attunements, so for example I'm in Fire attunement and then I switch to Earth attunement, that what will mean is my 4th and 5th ability will be defined by the element I was before, so my Fire abilities, my 1 and 2 by the one I've just switched to, my Earth abilities, and then the 3rd ability will be a mixture of the 2 elements that I'm currently attuned to, so Fire and Earth. So you can do that for any different element and it will create a different effect. And then if you press the F key again, so you went to Fire and then you press F1 again, it will then make your bar completely Fire, so you can still be attuned to a specific element if you wanted to. So this is a really interesting mechanic. And it also allows you to use a sword, which adds some extra weapon skills for you to put in, and also for each element as well, so that's quite a lot of extra skills to learn just there. Also adds a whole new skill type for this build called Stance. So stance skills provide positive effects for the Weaver, or do damage to nearby enemies. Last but not least, we have the Mesmer, which is the final scholar profession in Guild Wars 2, therefore using light armour and specialising in spellcasting. The weapons they have at their disposal are, in the 2-hand they can use either a great sword or a staff, in the main hand they can use a sceptre or a sword, and in the offhand they can use a focus, a pistol, a sword or a torch, and then underwater they can use a spear and a trident. The Mesmer is a really unique class that uses illusion magic to deceive and confuse opponents, which is something I've not really seen in any other MMO. They are often referred to as one of the hardest professions to play in Guild Wars 2, so it might not be best to use this for your first character, but they are a lot of fun, it's just the mechanics can take a little bit of time to get used to. So the main unique profession mechanic for the Mesmer are illusions. So illusions are basically clones of yourself that you're able to summon to confuse enemies but also to do damage. So they're split into 2 types, phantasms and clones. Phantasms are basically kind of see-through versions of yourself that are focused on doing damage, whereas clones are direct clones of you that don't do a lot of damage but are there pretty much to trick opponents. You also have shatter skills, which are your F1 to 4 abilities, which shatter all of your illusions and have a devastating effect on an enemy. So your F1 can do a lot of damage just by blowing up your clones and damaging enemies. So the skill types that you can use as a Mesmer are clones, which are a skill that summon a clone and they rush to the target to attack them. And obviously they're a complete clone of yourself, as discussed. There's glamour skills, which are utility skills that create shining fields on the ground, which have helpful effects on allies or harmful effects on enemies. Manipulation skills, which are utility skills used to evade attacks, mislead opponents, redirect forces, or to simply escape from a deadly situation. And there are mantra skills, which are skills that need to be prepared before use, and on their first use you channel it and prepare the mantra, and then after that they're fully charged and you can use your 2 charges of the mantra, which will have an active instant effect which you can use right in the middle of a fight. So you want to charge those out just before you go into a fight. And then obviously you've got phantasm skills, which we spoke about, which are illusions, but they're focused more on doing damage rather than actually tricking the opponent. So there are also 5 core specializations for the Mesmer, and you can have 3 active at any one time. The first one is Domination. So that has its emphasis on interrupting enemies and rendering them vulnerable, while also increasing the Mesmer's own damage against vulnerable enemies, and this enhances your greatsword skills. The Dueling specialization has its emphasis on critical hits, capable of increasing the Mesmer's elusiveness and enhancing pistol and sword usage. Chaos specialization has its emphasis on improving defense and the application of random boons and conditions, as well as boon and condition durations, and it's capable of enhancing staff, trident and manipulation skills. The Inspiration specialization emphasis on improving defense, support and healing, and is capable of enhancing focus, signet and mantra skills. The Illusions specialization has its emphasis on creating and shattering clones, reduces the charge of shatter skills, and is capable of further enhancing shatters, phantasms, scepter and torch skills. The first elite specialisation for the Mesmer, unlocked in the Heart of Thorns expansion, is the Chronomancer. The Chronomancer is all about controlling time and space around you to manipulate and confuse your opponents. It's very frustrating to play against, so it's a pretty good build. So it replaces all of your normal shatter skills with the Chronomancer shatter skills, which have totally different effects, so you have to make sure you learn all of those as well. It allows you to use the shield, which adds a few extra weapon skills as well, some good ones, so you want to try that out. And it also unlocks the skills wells, so well skills. So wells are skills that you can place on the ground that tick down, providing positive effects to allies or negatives to enemies before exploding to create a more powerful effect. The second elite specialisation for the Mesmer, unlocked in the Path of Fire expansion, is the Mirage. The Mirage grants Mesmers access to ambush and deception skills, and replaces the Mesmer's normal dodge ability with the Mirage Cloak. So, funny enough, it doesn't actually replace your normal F1 to F4 profession mechanics, they stay the same. A lot of the other mechanics change, and it's focused a lot more on moving around, teleporting and deceiving your opponent. So what it also does is it grants you access to axes, so you can now wield an axe and you get a few different weapon skills as well. So it also unlocks deception skills, which are skills that focus on making the Mirage even more elusive, so it's very difficult to play against this particular class. So you're probably now all thinking, which class should I choose? And unfortunately, maybe a bit of a cliche, but the answer is, there is no right or wrong answer. They're all good in their own way, and they've all got things about them which aren't as good. And to be honest, it's all about personal preference. I'll just reiterate what I said about the ones that are easier to play. I mean, it's not necessarily my opinion, but this is what people generally seem to think. The easier ones to play are normally the Warrior, the Guardian, the Ranger or the Necromancer, due to more simple mechanics. Intermediate, you're talking Revenant and Engineer, you've got to take a little bit more thinking. And then the hardest ones are the Elementalist, the Thief and the Mesmer, as they have a bit more complex mechanics and take a little bit longer to understand. From my point of view, in my opinion, my favourite professions to play are the Mesmer, it's by far my favourite, it's absolutely brilliant. The Necromancer, just because I love having all the minions and it's a lot of fun. And then the Guardian as well, I think it feels very powerful, which is really good. My least favourites, again just my opinion, are the Thief. I just can't get on with it and I don't enjoy it, but obviously that's just my opinion. The Warrior, I just think it just feels a bit basic and there's nothing about it which wows me. And then the Ranger, Again, pretty much for the same reason as the warrior. It's just not that exciting, to be perfectly honest. And then from an elite specialization point of view, what you've got to bear in mind is, although a profession might not be your favourite, there may be an elite specialization for that profession, which completely changes it and makes it 10 times better, and suddenly a profession that you really want to play. So obviously you have got a level from 1 to 80 to get that, and then obviously get all the skill points to unlock it, so it's a bit frustrating, but it can be worth it. Like, for example, after playing with all of these elite specializations, I'm thinking, although I don't like the thief and I wouldn't really want to play as one, the Daredevil, using that staff as a weapon, like a melee weapon, flipping around all over the place, I found that really quite enjoyable. So, you know, I might even consider a thief at some point just because I want to be a Daredevil. So it's almost like a completely different class, so it's quite exciting really. And then also just another mention, the Tempest for the Elementalist. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the Elementalist, it's pretty good, but the Tempest was fantastic. I felt so powerful just running around destroying everyone. So that's another really good shout out, so I'll definitely give that a go. And then one that I do really enjoy is the Reaper for the Necromancer, because I really like the Necromancer anyway, and I think it just builds on that. The Reaper Shroud is so cool. It's just like the Death Shroud, but like 10 times cooler. You're literally like the Grim Reaper, so that is a lot of fun. But there's a lot to choose from, so, you know, you're talking, there may be 9 professions, but there's 18 elite specializations, which are almost like a whole profession in themselves. There's a lot of choices to make. But really, I think the ultimate thing is, go with whatever you feel comfortable with. It doesn't matter if I'm saying this one's easier, this one's harder, this one's better, this one's worse. It's all personal preference, and it's all about enjoying yourself, so you should just go with whatever class or profession you enjoy the most, and that is the most important thing to take from this. So thanks for watching, guys, and check out some of my other Guild Wars 2 content. I've got a beginner's guide going on at the moment. I'm doing a walkthrough of the personal story. I'll be doing lots of other stuff, so like and subscribe if this helped you. Thanks for watching. See you later.